Okay guys, here's my attempt to save us some time in practice and hopefully give you a chance to check out our rotations outside of practice in case you're a little confused. We're going to run a system that's called a 6-2 to start, and what that means is that we have 6 people on the court who can attack and 2 people who will be setting. So obviously we don't have 8 people on the court, but our setters, when they are in the front row, they will be a right side, so they'll hit, and the setter who is in the back row will be the setter. You can see here on the first rotation here how our right side and our setter are opposite of each other. This way, whichever one of them is in the back row is always a setter, and there will be one of them in the front row, and they'll be called the right side. You'll also notice that our middles are opposite of each other and our powers are opposite of each other. So if you're ever unsure where you are in your rotation, you can always find the other person playing the same position as you, and then you should be able to line up opposite of them. A couple things about rotation. One thing is that it's really important that we stay in the same order as you go around clockwise here on the court. So each of the players must stay in this order as you go around each of the positions. So that is one thing that's really important. You can always look ahead and look behind you to see who's in front and who's behind in your rotation, and know that you always have to stay between those 2 people. A couple other things that are important. These 3 people here, the power here, the right side, and the middle, those 3 players are all in the front row. And before the ball is contacted, we need to be in this order from left to right. The power must be on the left, the right side must be in the middle between the power and this middle blocker here. So across the court, left to right, you have to be in this order. And the same goes for the people in the back court. They must stay in this order, left to right. So the middle must be on the left of the setter and the power must be on the right. And there's another rule for rotation that has to do with people in front of each other. So these 2 guys here, this power hitter must be in front of this middle blocker. And same thing goes for the next 2 in the middle. The right side must be in front of the setter, and same thing goes over here. So those are some of the rotation rules. You have to stay in order as you move around the court. You have to stay, if you're a front row player, you have to be in front of the person who's behind you, and all front row players must stay in this order, left to right, up until the ball is served. When the ball is served, you can then move left to right, but you cannot change between front row and back row. So, if this is our first rotation, what we really need to figure out is where do we stand or line up to get ready for serve receive. So that's what I'll show you on the right here. I wrote out the positions again. Before serve receive means that we are receiving the serve, so they're serving at us. One thing that's really important, because our setter is always from the back row, we want to move them up close to the net, and we want to have 3 main people ready to pass the serve. So this is kind of what it should look like. Our setter needs to go up closer to the net, say here, and we want this power hitter to come back and pass here. We want this middle to move over and pass the ball here, and we'll have this other power move up and pass the ball here. So you can see that across the back here we have these 3 guys who are ready to pass the ball, take the first contact from the server. We also have this middle blocker here who's not doing anything, so he needs to move back and line up right here, maybe to help out with anything that's short. and this right side can just slide over a little bit and stand here. So I know that got a little bit messy, but you have your rotation here on the left. This is the order in which you have to be lined up on the court. When we prepare for the serve, we can rearrange ourselves a little bit, and so we do that. We just keep ourselves, move ourselves around a little bit to get ourselves in a better position. A couple key things: 3 main passers, and we want to get the setter close to the net. Keep in mind we still have to be in order left to right for the back row players and the front row players. So let's copy that over and clean it up a little bit. So these are the positions, or the locations where each person should be on serve receive. So there should be a power here passing, there should be a middle in here, and there should be another power here. The setter has moved up to the net, close to it. The right side is just pushed outside of the middle a little bit, and the other middle has backed off close to the tee. So I'll just circle the 3 players that are in the back row. So that was a power. The setter is a back row setter, and our middle is also in the back row. So you can see how they're still in order from left to right. The middle is on the left, the setter is in the middle, the power is on the right, and the same goes for our front row players. From here the ball will be served at us. Hopefully one of these 3 guys in the back here will pass the ball. They'll pass it up to our setter. Okay. Then we have to decide who's going to hit where. So this power is front row. They'll hit on the left side. The right side will come out and attack on the right side, and the middle will come around and hit in the middle. So that's what rotation 1 looks like from the beginning. This is the rotations where you are on the court in order. Then when we prepare for serve receive, you have to move around a little bit. And you can see in the 3rd diagram here that these are the positions where we should be when the ball is being served. Once they've made contact with the ball, we make our pass and get into hitting position, and then we play the ball. So that's rotation number 1. Let's look at rotation number 2. So same idea, we want to get our setter up to the net. So we'll move our setter up here. We'll move this power hitter back here to pass. This power hitter can pretty much stay here or move forward just a little bit. This middle blocker will come up and pass here, and the right side will just come back to the tee. So our 3 guys who are going to be passing are these 3 guys right here. These are the 3 people who we want to pass the ball. And I'll rewrite this over here on the right so we can clean it up a little bit. So we should have our middle, they stay here. Oh, that should be black, sorry. So our middle stays here. Our setter has come up right behind them. Our power has backed off and they're going to pass on the left. We have our other power passing in the middle. And we have a middle blocker passing over here. And we have our right side on the tee. I'll circle the back row players again. So our setter is back row. This person is back row, and this middle here is back row. The question then comes is, once we pass the ball, who's going to hit where? So our power will swing out and hit on the left side. Our middle will come in and attack in the middle, and our right side will hit on the right side. And we'll only worry about front row attacks for now. So that's rotation number 2. And if we go back and check out rotation number 3 here, once again we've rotated around one. If we look up at the previous rotation, you can see how we have a right side here in the front row. Well, when they move ahead one rotation, they become a back row player, and so I've changed it to an S to represent a setter. The setter who was here in rotation 2 moved ahead one, and so you can see in rotation 3 I've changed them to be a right side. So, moving around to get ourselves ready for serve-receive, the setter will move up right here. The middle will move to the right and pass here. The power will move to the right and pass here. The right side will back up and pass here. And that's all the real movement before serve-receive. So these 3 players here are the ones that we want to pass the first ball. And I'll rewrite that out over here so it's a little cleaner. We should have a power passing here, a right side passing here, a middle passing here. The setter has moved up. They're stacking this power up at the net, and our other middle should be still hanging out in the middle of the court from the front row. Now from here, where do we attack? Well, the right side person will hit on the left first. The middle will come off and attack in the middle, and the power will go out and attack on the right side. Then once we play the ball over the net, we'll switch to our defensive positions, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. I also forgot to circle our back row players, so our back row players are these 3 here. The setter, the middle, and the power. And you can see how they're in the right order, left to right, and so are our front row players. We'll go over this a little bit more in practice, but that's the basics. If we look here, if we go from position 3, when we rotate to the next rotation, this power will become front row. So this power here, that's in the back left, will then end up being in the front right. And if we look up at rotation 1, we can see that that's the way it is on rotation 1. So that's it. I hope this helps.